Yeah, let's print with that.
So I'm just going to get started. Everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for coming today. I want to introduce our instructors today who have kindly arranged this printmaking workshop to benefit the food pantry at Cal State Long Beach, where they both work. And so here they are, Kiyomi Fukui and Michael Nannery together. They are visual artists and founders of Peace Lily Press and Microfarm. They're artfully inspired home, sustainable microfarm, and community space where they grow gorgeous greenery alongside intimate experiences, where they focus on building connections through creativity and vulnerability. Both Kiyomi and Michael incorporate products from their microfarm into their artwork, which have a transcendent and ephemeral quality to them as a result. My name is Heidi. I'm co-hosting this event as part of the Slow and Sustain magazine community. Slow and Sustain is a woman-run publication sharing stories of inspiring women entrepreneurs and creatives. You can visit slowandsustain.org to learn more and purchase this season's issue, which features Kiyomi's artwork. I am Heidi Wu. I'm a ceramic artist and founder of Wu Ceramics. I served as the art editor for Slow and Sustain's winter spring issue, where we featured Kiyomi's artwork both inside and outside of Peace Lily Press. And we'll make sure to share links associated with Kiyomi, Michael, Peace Lily Press and Microfarm, and Slow and Sustain, along with this video when we post it on YouTube and IGTV. So for those of you who've joined us today, we'll be making art prints using vegetables found in your garden or your refrigerator. This is a kid-friendly project, so any moms out there who want to make yourselves a Mother's Day card, that's what I'm doing. This is for you. And you can follow along with us, or you can rewatch the workshop later. We'll be sending it out to all the participants. So let's begin, Michael and Kiyomi.
Yay. Well, I'm so sorry. Hello, thank you for joining us. I think it's going to be a pretty intimate group today, which is totally fine. And like Heidi said, I think there's going to be a good recording later on that we can all share and watch. So it's going to be fun. Do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, feel free to join in the printing, or just feel free to watch, whatever makes you comfortable, whatever is easy for you. Yeah. So my name's Michael. I am one part of Peace Lily Press and Microfarm, which basically that sort of, I don't know what you would call it, project or way of working, that's just kind of represents like our interest in working, with plants, sustainable, agriculture, gardening, printmaking. So it's kind of about all those different intersections. And this workshop is like, prime material for the kind of stuff that we do, because really it's stuff from our garden. So we went out and harvested this nice little kind of like bouquet of just various things, a lot of delicious vegetables, some things that people would consider weeds, all sorts of stuff. So we'll be kind of going through all that and talking about our relationships with all of these plants as we print with them.
Yeah. And honestly, we actually did pull a lot of weeds today. In mind, trying to make art from your enemy of the garden, right? So I think it'll be a really fun way to kind of like really be connected to everything, every aspect of your garden.
Yeah. So I think in general, it's like, with vegetable stamping, it's like, it is really a creative process. And there's just so many different things that you could potentially do with it. We're just going to be exploring a lot of different ideas and just experimenting with it. And we've just prepared a bunch of materials and, a bunch of inks and different things like that. And we're just going to be working with them and talking about what we're doing as we go.
Thank you. Yes. All right.
So for starters, like probably the most obvious thing you need is like plants or vegetables or whatever, which we have tons of those. Like I mentioned, we selected, a lot of different interesting things, just from our garden. We also have this just collection of a few items from our refrigerator. So these are what I would consider a bunch of old nasty vegetables. Maybe we could cook with them and eat them. If anything, the ones we don't print with, we probably will eat for like lunch or dinner. Here's some old cabbage. There's some old like gross radishes. This is stuff that I bet I could cook it and eat it and it would be delicious, but it's like, I don't know if it's that good to eat raw anymore. We got some weeds as well. So we'll even try printing some of those. Really, anything could work in this sort of way. And that's kind of the idea. And also in the title of the workshop, potatoes. So we have these little potatoes here. Here's like a yam, strange looking yam. And we'll carve those and print them as well. So you can do, more specific imagery besides just like the vegetable itself if you're working with something that you can do a carving with. So basically the main printmaking technique we're going to be working with today is relief printing. And that's essentially when you're printing ink off a surface of something. So let's take this, this dock leaf, for instance. This is called greater dock. And it's basically a weed, but I really love it. It's really cool. One kind of funny thing about this is back in the old day when people used to make butter. I mean, they still do make butter, but they used to wrap sticks of butter in these leaves. So that's just one kind of funny historical use of this plant. It is edible, although I don't eat this one. It wouldn't be very good to eat, in my opinion. But in terms of printing, it's got this just beautiful, beautiful surface to it.
Oh yeah, I think that's a good camera.
And you can kind of see like all the beautiful detail, all the nice veins. And yeah, it would be so easy to just roll ink onto the surface of this leaf and then to just kind of, print it onto a surface of the paper. So we'll do that. We'll mostly work with paper today, but I also brought just a bunch of t-shirts. So it is also possible to do this on t-shirts or fabric, which I think that's great. I've printed a lot of like Veggie stamp t-shirts or just fabric pieces with it. So we'll kind of experiment a little bit with it. And I'm just going to take this camera 3 and also just give you a really quick close-up of kind of this print in the background. So this is from 2014. And this was from like another vegetable stamp workshop I did on that time. It was actually on my birthday. But basically, yeah, this is just a whole bunch of experimentations. And it's kind of the backdrop for our workshop today. But you can see different things, like this is a yam that was kind of carved and printed. Here you can kind of see some onions. Hopefully that's all showing up. This was a palm leaf, I believe. Mm-hmm. These are like peppers. There's some dandelions. I think there's more peppers up here, or maybe an apple. I can't even remember some of these. This was another yam. Here was a potato. Veggie stamp. So really there's like tons of cool things that you can do. I mean, I think this print kind of turned into its own sort of psychedelic situation. I think we'll probably try to do a lot more measured and elegant stuff because I feel like that looks better for like cards and things like that.
I think either way is going to look pretty interesting, especially if you're working with kids. You don't want to restrict too much of their imagination.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually have done this workshop with kids before. So it gets really messy, a little crazy with the kids. So you just got to make sure they're not wearing nice clothes. But otherwise.
Or apron.
Yeah, apron is a good idea. Also, gloves are a pretty good idea too.
Like Michael mentioned, you can definitely print this on fabric and textile, maybe t-shirt or hoodie, whatever you want. But if you are doing that, you probably want to use screen printing ink. Screen printing ink is a great one if you want to use this on fabric.
And honestly, it's like not that great. Like, I think this is good to use with like a potato stamp. So
right.
Like with these kinds of leafy vegetables, it's going to be hard to get something that looks good. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it's just hard. So we're going to go over like how to use this kind of ink as well, which, for getting the most detail for kind of like interesting cards and images, this kind of ink.
Using vegetables as a stamp, it's actually much better in terms of details on a paper. Okay, so if you are using t-shirt or fabric, you can totally get interesting quality of images, but it's not going to be as crisp of an image. You know, as long as you expect that, I think it's a fun experiment to do. So for paper, there are some inks that I prefer using, although you're welcome to experiment with what you have on hand, maybe like acrylic paint, you know, like do whatever you want with whatever supplies that you have. But this is what I would recommend if you care about that fine art quality that is, you know, acid-free and it's going to last forever, you know, all that good stuff. Then those are the things you can use. This one is called Aqua Wash from Charbonnel. Charbonnel is the brand, Charbonnel. Charbonnel Aqua Wash. And Aqua Wash means that they make this ink so that it is water soluble. Yeah, water soluble, meaning you can clean this up without solvents. You know, it's going to be much safer to work around kids as well. Okay, so you definitely can get a lot of great colors with Charbonnel Aqua Wash.
And just one note about Charbonnel and the water soluble colors is one of the best ways to clean it up is to use soapy water. So like a spray bottle with just like 1 or 2 drops of soap in it. And that's all you need to clean it up. I actually see we don't have that with us here today. I think we're going to end up using Simple Green, which works great too. That's a degreaser and it's, you know, non-toxic or somewhat non-toxic.
Well, they say it's very non-toxic.
So either Simple Green or soapy water will probably be what you use to clean up.
Yes, and same kind of vein of thought. So all the inks that I'm recommending today is all water soluble. And water soluble, but slow drying. So you have a lot of work time. And I think that's kind of a key for that, you know, beautiful, fine art kind of a print, which again, you know, if you only have acrylic paint at hand, I think that's totally fine to play with it. Just be kind of ready to work quickly with those because it is going to dry on you. Acrylic paint just dries very quickly, which is a good thing about it too. But here's another brand that you can use. This is called Cranfield Safe Wash. And this is another great water soluble ink to use. And here's another one. You know, I teach printmaking at Glendale Community College right now, and we use this one, Super Graphic Black from Speedball Professional Relief ink. Okay, so this is a little bit different from their other ink line. They do have different kinds of ink that they make, but this is the specific one, Speedball Professional Relief ink. That's the one that is slow drying and water soluble. It's perfect for everything that you do at home because cleanup is easy, but it's not going to just dry up on you very quickly.
I've also used Akua, which is like a really common like non-toxic printmaking ink brand. Like sometimes there's some issues with it in terms of like drying and in terms of inconsistency, but as far as like prints on paper go, Akua worked great for me. Like this is all printed with Akua ink, for instance. I've also printed t-shirts with it, but had mixed results with like the drying time where
it takes a long time to dry.
Yeah, it took several months for it to actually dry. So one of these inks might actually be better for printing on fabric. It might dry more quickly, but there's a lot of great options out there. And if you've never bought ink before, these are some of the brands we would recommend.
Right. Oh yeah. So printing on fabric, you could also use these kind of ink for fabric too. It's just going to take a long time to dry. So just keep that in mind. And after it dries to touch, you have to heat set it. A hair dryer you can do, or even like a iron. You know, you can iron it on top of a newsprint or something.
I usually take a hair dryer set to the maximum heat, and then I just hold it close to the shirt.
Like this close, this close.
So yeah, you know, there's more than one way to do it, but heat kind of helps set the ink on the fabric. So then the last kind of ingredient, actually, I guess there's kind of two more that I would consider. One would be newsprint, or like some just printing material in general. So for starters, like having some sort of proofing print material. And what I mean by that is it's kind of there to help facilitate the actual good prints that you make. So this is kind of like newsprint, like what they print newspapers on, right? And we're going to use this as kind of like a supplementary material, just to kind of like not hit ink everywhere and just to also do test prints on it as well. Honestly, for vegetable stamping, I find myself using paper towels like in place of newsprint a lot of the time, because I'll kind of use it to help support the print. And then afterwards, I'm like cleaning up with it and stuff like that. So, you could probably, depending on what you're doing, you might even just be able to use paper towels instead of newsprint, because I realize not everybody has newsprint. And there's also just different kinds of papers you could use for newsprint, like maybe the right kind of tissue paper if it's not too like crinkled or crumpled. And then also beyond newsprint and paper towels, which I should also mention like the cleanup stuff. I know we mentioned Simple Green and soapy water, but like paper towels or maybe some old like rags are good for cleanup. I like to use like a bunch of old socks to clean up after my ink.
Yes.
But yeah, the last thing is paper to print on or whatever you're printing. So here we've just cut just some random pieces, different kinds of paper. So this is maybe, like Bristol or cardstock is probably something good. We also have some calligraphy paper we're going to print on. I'm a little worried that the calligraphy paper might be too thin, but I think, we'll see what happens. But this paper actually seems kind of best. It's got like a little bit of rigidity to it. So if your paper is like a little rigid, then I think that's better. Also, you don't want paper that's too textured. So like, if you've seen watercolor paper, sometimes watercolor paper has like a lot of like grain or texture to it, which is awesome for like holding its shape, but you're not going to get as much detail from the print itself. So just be aware of like what the surface of the paper looks like, which, that might kind of, influence like what you're doing. So just be aware of that. And you can see like by comparison how thin like this newsprint is, where it's like, yeah, that's very thin. This is a lot thicker. So try to get something that has a little bit of rigidity to it, which yeah, cardstock might be the easiest thing to get a hold of. Bristol paper works like maybe best. But honestly, so much can work. Like there's not like a right and wrong way to do this. So just grab whatever you can.
And if you are trying to make a card today with this veggie stamp, I think it is best to use card stock, like sort of a thicker paper for this, because again, card, you can probably imagine how that might work out a little bit better than a thin flimsy paper. But yeah, there's no rule. I think that's the beauty of this.
Here's like a calligraphy paper that it's like very thin. Honestly, it might be thinner than newsprint, but I still feel like we'll probably get some good prints out of it. So we're going to test it just to show you what happened. Yeah, brayers. So this is another thing where, you could probably do it without a brayer, but it helps so much if you can get a brayer. So you could probably get something like this for maybe like $10 or less at like some sort of art store, or of course you can order it online. Getting some sort of brayer is going to be really helpful. And a lot of the techniques we're going to show, we're going to be using a brayer to facilitate it. I think you could use like a brush in certain instances and kind of like brush on the ink or the paint and then print it. So we'll try to show you how you can do that as well. But for the most part of it, we're going to be using brayers to roll out ink, like to prepare ink bits to stamp into, and then also just to roll over top with it. But yeah, a brush can also work if you're careful. I think it just takes a lot more finesse if you're using like a brush. So just be aware of that.
Okay. Oh, another thing. Okay. So getting near to the end of the material renter. Here is palette knife, putty knife. You can get this at Home Depot and stuff like that. Maybe if you are an artist, if you have been painting, you might have a palette knife that looks quite different. The little diamond shaped one. You can totally use that too. But this is what I like using because it makes that mixing of ink very quick with this one. I don't like the kind of putty knife that is really, really rigid. So if you're trying to pick up a putty knife from Home Depot or Lowe's or any hardware store, you would notice that there's some that are kind of flexible and there's some that just won't even bend. I don't like those non-bendy ones. So make sure you are getting somewhat flexible of a putty knife.
And then, for brushes, if you have to use a brush, just the cheap chip brush or like the foam brush. I'm just going to keep these chip brushes around because, maybe we'll use them at some point. I'll I'll dip them in some ink and then we'll try to paint it on the leaves. And, sometimes you get some brush marks if you do that, but, we'll see. Maybe not. I think it's just all about like how effective you are at applying the ink and actually printing it.
And maybe like there are some little things here, like this one is my, he can use the nitrile gloves. I can use a glove cream, barrier cream. It's really up to you what your preference is. If you want to have your hands free, I like feeling all the dirty surface and getting my hands dirty. So I prefer having this thing called Skin Safer, which is a barrier cream, but I think it might just be easier for a lot of people to simply use gloves. So there's that. So little things here and there that I might talk about later, because I probably haven't done everything. Okay, do you want to get started?
Sure. Oh yeah, just other thing, carving tool.
Oh yeah.
So this is when we get to the potatoes, and we'll just after this we'll just explain things as we go. Yeah, just some sort of carving tools are good if you're doing the potato stamps. So I've got like a Swiss Army knife. That's one tool. This is probably the best one for carving, which this is like a carving gouge for relief carving, which I like the one size bigger than this, but I think we'll be stuck doing finer.
That's right.
And then an X-Acto knife. So this is also another good choice. Whatever you want to work with. Potatoes are fun to carve, and we'll be doing a little bit of that as the time progresses. So let's just get started by rolling out some ink. And Kiyomi, do you have a pick for the color, or should I?
You go ahead. I think, go ahead and pick the color that you like.
Okay. I'm actually going to use our brayer that's in the worst shape.
Yes, that one is not picked so well.
I like using the really bad ones because I don't feel guilty if I mess them up somehow. And what kind of color should we print with? We can do black.
Sure.
For starters. Yeah. Why not, right?
Yeah, the most contrast you can get out of black.
So this will really show up good for you because I know you've all been so patiently waiting for us to start printing instead of talking.
Christine says, or a wallpaper roller looks similar. Yes, totally.
So true.
Yeah, you can definitely do that.
So here's the ink. I like these tubes. You can get ink in cans too, but the problem with cans is like the ink can go bad in there if it's like gouged, which is like when you're trying to like scoop out the ink in the wrong way. So you got to be kind of careful. This tube stuff, it's like a lot more easier and it'll last longer that way. So I kind of hate it, but then I also kind of like it. So, and basically like when you get your ink ready, just work it a little bit with the putty knife first. Every once in a while, you'll find some gunk in there that you might want to scoop out, but it's also good to kind of like activate the ink a little bit. So I always play with it a little bit and just do a little bit of this. And basically what you want to do is just have a little bit of ink and you kind of like,
that's better.
I'm not sure how you'd say that, but just spread a little bit of it out.
Yeah.
And then just start rolling it just like this. And we're just kind of trying to create what's called a slab of ink. That's what they call it in printmaking terms. And we're just trying to roll out ink in kind of an even sort of way. And you want to pay attention to just how much ink you're actually rolling out. So I like to listen to the sound of the ink. So that like whisking sound that we're hearing, that's a great sign. This is exactly what a slab of ink is supposed to look and sound like. And also just be aware if there's any like lines or like, that are kind of forming from like the way you're rolling out the ink. You want to try to have it just kind of spread out nice and evenly. And there's absolutely an art to doing this. So it's like, just like the finesse is like kind of important. It's not important for printing some vegetables and stuff, but like to be like good at printmaking, like how you do this kind of stuff is really important. So let's roll some ink and make like our first print. So one reason I like to have this newsprint around is I can just like put it down and I don't have to worry about the ink kind of going everywhere and getting messy, which don't get me wrong, I love messy stuff, but we're trying to keep it a little controlled here. So our first vegetable, I think it's going to be a celery. So this is a little piece of celery from our garden, which, celery from the store, I think it's not very good. It doesn't taste very good to me. It doesn't taste like anything at all. But if you grow celery at home, it actually tastes amazing. And it's like one of my favorite vegetables. And it's also very, very medicinal too. So I'm just trying to roll on top of these leaves here. And it's, you know, it's like you can kind of see it happen. You can see the ink go onto the leaves. And the very first print is going to be the hardest because it's not used to taking the ink and it's naturally going to resist a little bit. This one's actually taking the ink quite well. And you can kind of see it's like ready to be printed onto paper there. So you can see a little bit of the sheen to the ink on it. And I say, let's do it. And it really smells strongly of celery. It smells amazing to me. Yeah, you know what? We've got this squarish piece of paper here. I'm going to take another piece of newsprint kind of as like a printing to assist in the printing. And so here we go. And honestly, I just like to use my hand. We'll probably show off a few other like ways of applying the pressure, but like for vegetable stamping, I just like to put it on there and just use my hand, not letting it move around, but I can feel the vegetable. Like I know where it is and it's not moving and I'm just using my hands to apply the pressure. And if anything, I'm not applying too much pressure because I think I'm going to roll this up multiple times with ink and print it over this paper in different ways. So that's the cool thing about printmaking is you can kind of repeat a pattern. So here's our first impression. And I like it. I think that looks cool. And so, yeah, we'll keep going. I'm going to take the same piece of celery. I'm going to put it back down where it was. And honestly, I feel like one of the hardest things to do with this kind of printing is like trying not to make a mess and trying to like keep it looking like elegant and stuff like that, because it's really easy to slop your ink like everywhere and like mess it up. And you'll see a lot of instances of that. So I feel like half the time, like the prints are kind of like getting ruined just by spots of ink getting in different places. And that's why it's important to like try to keep it as clean as you can and just be careful with it. So I'm just going to plop it down here. And once you put it down, you don't want to move it because basically you're going to see like the ink kind of skip if you do that. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of examples of that happening. So here's another thing. So I'm going to reuse this newsprint, but you got to be careful when you do this because if this bit of ink touches the white of the paper, we're going to end up transferring that ink on there. So just be cautious. This is why we're probably going to go through like a ton of newsprint. I'm just going to carefully like use it as many times as I can and then throw it away when I'm done. We're just going through again and just doing the same thing, just using my hands to kind of apply pressure. And it's looking good. So now I'm just going to do it full speed and I'm just going to like try to fill this page a little bit and try to create like a pattern with just this one individual piece of plant. Just to see like how, if we can get like 4, 5, 6 good prints out of this single piece. Because usually that's the case. If you're careful with it, if you're not like being rough with the plant material, you can just keep printing and keep going. And as we print this, we'll kind of see some changes in the material as we go. Like it'll start to get a little more broken down. I think we can still make a great composition with it though. So once again, just being mindful of where the ink is going. And honestly, the ones where I make a lot of mistakes, I usually just end up like drawing or painting on top of it. So it's like, even when you make mistakes, it's always salvageable. You know, there's always more like workovers you can do or workarounds. We're just continuing along.
By the way, if anybody has any questions, please do type in chat or you could raise hand. I don't know if you guys all know how to raise hand in Zoom. If you don't, you can turn on your camera and raise hand physically in that screen.
Okay, and we'll try to do maybe 2 more, 1 or 2 more. I don't think we can fit that many more on here.
Thank you, Sama-chan.
What do you think? 1, 2? See,
1.
One
Yeah.
more.
I
Okay.
think 1 is good with that.
2 would be overdoing it.
Exactly.
You don't want to overdo it. And also this
That's a
newsprint
lot.
is getting nice and messy.
Okay.
And it's like, look at how dirty it's getting. We probably got 1 more use out of it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to hold it so this clean side is facing down. It smells so much like celery around here. It's making me very hungry. I didn't eat lunch, so now I'm just like craving celery.
Mm. Yeah, don't eat the inky plants.
Exactly. We're gonna throw out these vegetables, unfortunately.
That's right.
And yeah, I would say this print is done to me.
Great. You want to show it off to the camera?
I do want to show it off to the camera.
Thank you.
So here's this cool little celery image. There's our first print.
Yes. What should we print next? If anybody has any requests, or if Michael wants to just pick one, I think that's great. We have a lot of.
I have so much to print. I can just keep going. It's totally up to you guys.
Maybe you can pick one that's really meaningful to you then. Oh, I am not touching this one, by the way.
Let me just roll out another color in ink. So honestly, I think this is so much more entertaining when you've got like all these different colors going on. And I like to make a big, disgusting mess. Like this whole area, I want it just to be covered in all this different ink and all these vegetables. I want to be grossed out by the end of this. So let's get another roller and let's do blue. You don't have that many green ink, do you, Kiyomi?
No, you can mix it up yourself though.
Do you have yellow?
Yes and no. Yes. No. Yes, I do. Okay, sorry.
All right. You sent me,
I have more of an orange kind of a yellow. This is called nasturtium yellow.
That's fine. We like nasturtiums. You know, I almost picked some nasturtiums from our garden for this.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
This ink is having a little bit of trouble coming out.
Did you want to share how you grew the celery?
How did I grow it?
Oh, I need your help, I think. This one, I can't open it.
Don't worry.
Sorry.
So the celery, yeah, I've got a few different kinds going. Hold on.
No.
It's kind of stuck. Some of this ink is a little old, and it's
Very
probably towards the end of its life.
Yeah. I
might need
have
pliers for that one.
I have
It's
a
okay.
Nannery roller
I
that
got it.
Christine made.
That might be a little too orange. I don't think that's going to work as a yellow.
Sorry. Oh yeah.
So there's not going
Well,
to be
when
any.
you spread it, there was actually a little bit more yellow.
All right. Well,
But try it. Oh, here are you.
I've got it. I got it. So anyway, we'll just go with blue for now. I don't want to. I think it's too dark. This orange. I don't want to. It's not the green that I have in mind.
Sorry about that. The yellow I had did go bad. Not that it went bad, but it dried out. That's kind of the faulty design of this tube, I would say.
I think all inks kind of have that problem. It's like when you have an ink, you kind of need to be printing with it. Sometimes they don't last more than like a year. So.
Yeah, but at the same time, Charbonnel tubes are kind of notorious for doing that.
So we'll just play with the inks that we have. I love printing with green because it's like green plants. Like it makes so much sense to me. But unfortunately, we don't have yellow. And you need yellow to mix with the blue to make the green. So that's okay. We just won't have any like realistic looking plants. And
sorry about that.
I'm fine with that. But kale. Oh, I didn't answer the question about growing the celery. So sidetracked. So these ones I started from seed, and I've been growing them for like a while. Like I think ever since we moved here, which was like in like around August of last year. So that's about how old these celeries are. Actually, a little older than that. I think we started them at our last place and planted them here, and they're kind of in the shady spots, so they've been growing really slowly. And I picked them off, and they're my favorite ingredient to put in smoothies, along with fennel, and also along with mint, which we'll print with those as well. Maybe we'll have to do like a smoothie vegetable stamp.
I like that smoothie print.
I put these in our smoothies too. So this is kale, and this plant. The celery. So we also planted some celery from the grocery store too. So we have some of those that are like growing back. I prefer to start them from seed. I think they actually do grow faster. But I think celery is great. It's way better if you grow it yourself. So this is one of those vegetables that's much, much better grown at home. Also, if you don't get organic celery, it is like one of those celeries that has like, or one of those plants that has like so much pollutants in it. So it's like if you're, the whole organic or not organic thing, this is one of those plants to get organic.
Grocery store celery though. You chop it up, right? Chop off the bottom of it. You can kind of put that in water and that's how it grows. That's how you can propagate from grocery store celery that we learned from Christine. Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. And also, just not to knock on that grocery store celery too hard, that stuff's like awesome for stamping and printing. It's honestly one of the best because you know the shape, the U shape of celery. You can do cool little designs or patterns with that. I think the celery that we have in our fridge is like not so good. I don't want to be showing it off because it's kind of getting a little rotten in there. It's gonna make its way to the compost bin soon.
Yes.
Anyway, let's do this dinosaur kale or black kale, whatever they call it. And this plant, we've had it for several years. So like it was growing for a few years at our old place. We dug it up out of the ground and transplanted it here. And it's totally grown back. It loves it. It's so happy. And we eat it very often. And this is one of my favorites for printing. Like I love this dinosaur kale, as they call it. It really does look like a dinosaur. And I'm going to try something different with this. I'm going to try rolling 2 different colors of ink onto it to get a nice little blend. Because wouldn't it be cool to see like a black and a blue on this? Because if we can't do green, the next coolest thing might be like blue black. You know, that's like you're looking at the plant at night or something like that. So Kiyomi, why don't you get a nice piece of paper that's a good size?
Bigger or smaller?
Let's try one of those calligraphy papers.
All right.
We're gonna try our hands at some calligraphy now. Use some calligraphy paper.
It is thin. It's very thin and fragile. So we're gonna see. Do you want a rough side up or a smooth side up?
Rough is fine. I don't think it matters.
All right.
So yeah, this paper has like 2 different textures to it. I think they're both smooth enough to where it doesn't matter at all. And I'm just rolling both blue and black ink onto it. Why not use both, right? So I kind of have a feeling we're gonna get a cool little gradient just from rolling both inks on here. So here we go. I got my little piece of newsprint handy. We'll just plop it down. I'm thinking probably 3 pieces of kale I can do on here. That will be pretty nifty looking. We'll do the first one right there.
So like Michael said earlier, you can totally use a paper towel for this part instead of newsprint. And so you don't have to get any specialized art supply.
And usually at a certain point in the print session, I just devolve into using into the paper towel. So here's the first one that we did. I'll try to hold it closer.
Thank you.
Actually, you can see like the texture from the paper on this one. So it's like maybe the other side might have been better. I don't think you can really tell on camera. And honestly, you'd have to be like really nitpicking to kind of notice that. But I noticed it. So in the future, it's like I would probably do the next one on the other side. As I mentioned, that's a very minor detail. And I only pick up on that just because I pay attention to it. And yeah, this next time I'm rolling it, the ink's going on a lot smoother. So my assumption would be the next print will be like a little juicier. So if I was like trying to make a really cool artwork, I might do this first print on like a separate sheet of paper, maybe newsprint or something, just to kind of prime it for like some better ink action. So that's kind of what we have going on here. And I'm just going to plop it down right here. This is the part that I struggle with because my hand's always shaking. And I'm like,
let the nature take its course.
We'll try a more Zen approach and just drop it.
Let it do its thing.
Oh, I don't like that as much. I shouldn't have trusted that.
Work with it. It's okay.
It's okay. It really is. Maybe that means we'll squeeze an extra leaf into here.
That's right.
We'll see. And I've just kind of applied a little bit of pressure with my hand. As you can see, it's like I'm not even applying much pressure. I'm usually feeling for like the middle vein of the leaf, and I'm just kind of pushing around it. I like the way that one looks. That one looks delicious, actually.
Yes.
Really makes me hungry. So I think we can do one more.
So kind of like.
And I think we can do it down here. I think that looks pretty good.
Nice.
I'll try to carefully not get that ink anywhere, like I was doing before.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can tell, all the little details transfers beautifully. Yes, and the way you use blue, Michael, is very subtle. I like that. Like a glow.
Yep. Fun
Yeah.
stuff.
All right, I'm gonna try this.
Let's do another piece, but let's do the other side of the paper, the smooth
Okay.
side.
The smooth side. We're
'Cause you
gonna
know
try
what?
the smooth
I
side.
have some bamboo that we picked from our garden, and I feel like it would be so zen to do like a bamboo print like this.
I think you're right. I think
Actually,
you're right.
oh, you know what? We're gonna do two pieces. Let's do like another one of my favorite techniques where you make two prints from one single impression.
Ooh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And also, I just want to note that we're going to save all these nasty printables. I don't know what we're going to do with it, but we're going to do something cool with it.
Christine says they look the same on screen. Perhaps in person they look different. Yeah, it's one of those things. Very subtle. The texture is quite subtle, but you can touch it. If you touch the paper, there's usually one side smooth, one side rough kind of thing with a lot of paper. Wait, we can see the color though. Good. Yeah, so it's when you're picking up that paper, maybe pay attention to which side might print better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Experiment.
So right now I'm just rolling some black ink onto one side of this bamboo. And I'm gonna try rolling blue ink onto the other side. And it's like, wouldn't it be cool if we have two prints that are like mirrors of each other with like slightly different colors on either one? So my hope will be that there'll be a really cool like pair.
Okay.
I feel like it's a very cool idea for an image.
Oh, by the way, this table is protected here with a glass slab, so the ink doesn't get on your table. And also it's easier to clean when it's glass. You could also use acrylic sheet, like a plexiglass. This one is on a plexiglass.
Yeah, plexiglass is great. In some instances, I almost prefer it because there's no risk of it breaking or anything.
You can drop it, maybe.
And I think having a good inking area, that's one of the key ingredients. I forgot to mention it before. I think we got too sidetracked.
So
Inks and
much.
sprayers. So here we go. It's all inked up.
Here.
It's all inked up. And why don't you grab a second sheet?
Another one.
And we're gonna try to flop it down. And then instead of using newsprint, we're just gonna use another piece of printing paper because we don't have all day. We need to be printing twice as fast to keep up with what we have in here. So let's just set this bamboo down as like zen as we possibly can.
I don't know what you mean by that, but we'll see.
I'm not sure either, but I think
Okay.
I think I achieved it. And I think you have cleaner hands.
I
Kiyomi.
do. I have not touched ink. Okay. Like that.
Yep, doesn't have to be perfect. All right, good. You know what? I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting, since this is bigger, I'm starting from the middle and I'm working my way out. And I'm just using the pressure of my hands. There's also like, you could print with a wooden spoon. You could print with a Baron, which is another printmaking tool. But honestly, since we're printing with like live plants that we just picked, it might be better to just use your hands because if you push too hard, you're gonna splatter plant material onto what you're printing on, depending on.
Also with this paper and all the height differences in the plant materials, it might cause tearing if you have too much pressure on.
Very true.
It's hard to do that if you're doing this by hand, you know, without any tools. So yeah, hand pressuring might be the best way to go.
I like it because it's the printmaking equipment that you're born with.
Mm-hmm.
We're all capable of making prints with our hands and feet.
That's right. Oh, subtle.
It is very subtle.
Here.
So here's what we're left with. These two prints, and they're very similar, but slightly different. And they kind of mirror each other. So this is actually one of my favorite things to do is make like mirror images of plants. So yeah, very subtle, you know, there's always more or less we could do. And we'll do like a couple other kind of cool examples that are sort of like this. So, you know, here we have these two that could kind of go together.
Nice. There's a little bit of a, yeah, color shift for sure from one black to the other in blue. I do like.
So yeah, Kiyomi, you'll take those away and I'm gonna ink up this bamboo one more time, and we're going to use a piece of Bristol paper next. And we're just going to use black this time, I think, just to keep it a little simpler.
Calligraphy paper? Oh no, Bristol you said. Okay. Any size preference?
Whatever size.
This one.
A little bigger if you can.
You do have preference.
Yes, I do.
It's not.
It's okay. Whatever you can get. It's
Yeah, I
fine.
feel like we didn't prepare too much about.
That small
How about
size.
this one?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay.
So I'm just inking both sides again. And like I said, the first time it's a little harder to roll ink on it. So those last prints came up like a little light. And if I would have done it for the second print, it might have turned out a little darker, a little richer. And let's just try something a little different here.
You want the newsprint to be,
Yeah,
we
just-
can use the
that's
big one.
perfect. I'm just going to try laying it down like this. And my goal is going to be to fold this in half. So I'm actually going to.
Why don't I do that with the clean hand? Oh.
It's not good.
All right.
I'm going to just pre-fold it. I know where all the ink is. It's right there.
Oh, good for you.
I usually don't wear gloves. I usually just try to be careful.
He does not even wear apron, which is crazy for me, you know. But he's a lot less messy when it comes to printing. I get really messy. That's why I have to wear protective wear.
And you know, I do end up getting ink around, so I'm not perfect, but I don't usually get a lot on me.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, see, I already got some ink on it. That's okay. That's the inside of the card.
We can paste something here. We can collage something here. Ooh, there's the mirror.
Yeah, that's
I
looking
like
a little more zen than the last one.
Or more like Rorschach, you know?
I love doing this. This is honestly like my favorite technique for making the cards is to do this, inverse printing like that. So anyway, yeah, I like this one. I think it's really cool. So there we go. You can kind of see how it would become a card with the front and the back side like that.
Like that. Front, back.
And honestly, I love just grabbing grass and just inking up grass and just printing it like that, you know? I think there's something really beautiful and poetic to that. So, you know, if we have time later, I might experiment with it a little more. I'll put this bamboo off to the side in my pile for now.
There's a
Even better,
cup for dirties.
with a little receptacle. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, let's do one more vegetable. We've got this, let's start using some of our fridge vegetables. So here's a piece of okra, and I'll let you do the vegetable cutting because I don't want to transfer any ink.
I'm just gonna do this part.
Sure. So check it out, okra. Like check out that cool little interesting pattern there.
It is so cute.
That can become part of our composition. So Kiyomi, why don't you fetch us another piece of paper?
Okay. Small is fine.
Small is fine.
Okay. Bristol.
Bristol. Smaller the better for this one. So that's the thing is if you're like using like a big leafy whatever, like let's say you're trying to print this dock leaf, you're gonna need like a big piece of paper to print it on. Like even this newsprint is like looking a little small for it. So this would be a great print on a big sheet of paper, but for the small stuff, it's like, you know, your like little carrots or your okras or your celeries, those might be the best. And one thing that really helps when you're doing vegetable stamps is if it's like a moist, kind of juicy vegetable, I'm just gonna like try my best to dry it out. Like I can't completely dry it out. And you can see all the moisture that's just coming off of it. That's just how okra is, but I'm just kind of trying to blot that a little bit. It helps if I just let it sit for a while too. You don't really have to do this. It just makes it easy for the ink to go on. Like the first few prints are gonna be a little easier to make. So let's just start rolling up the ink and see what happens.
Or you can even stamp into that slab.
It's so true. So yeah, there's more than one way to do it. It's not that complicated. You can also have like a brush and just paint the ink on here. So there's a lot of good approaches. So you can do it like this. And that's looking actually pretty good. You know, I think the blotting I did actually helped. And let's just do like a quick little pattern. And I'm just kind of moving it around a little bit, not really moving it, but just making sure the pressure is even. That looks cool. I love the negative space on the inside. And I'm just gonna keep inking it, just fresh.
Yeah.
I could just keep.
Yeah, like maybe show the difference between.
Sure, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
So there we go. And I'll just dip it in the ink too. So here's kind of the other approach where we're just kind of dabbing it into the ink slab. That's a great approach to it too. It's a little faster to do it that way. It looks good. If anything, it's a little richer doing it that way. That's kind of one reason I like to roll it on, is it's like a little less sloppy. Sloppy is usually okay, but sometimes when things get too sloppy, it's not good.
Wait, so I missed it for a second, but this is the one you dabbed it,
Yes.
and this is the one you rolled.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe I'll show some difference.
So this is the one that got dabbed directly into the ink. It's a little darker, it's a little richer.
And you also kind of lose a little bit of the details of the texture, if you can see.
Exactly. So if you like higher contrast, dabbing it in might be a good way to go. I think it's good to experiment with both and just see what you like doing, what's comfortable to you, because I don't think there's necessarily a wrong way to do it. But I would like to cut this off.
All right.
Trying not to cut myself.
Ooh, it's cuter inside.
Look at that, the seeds. I cut into some seeds. I think that's kind of interesting. I want to see how that works out. So I'm just once again blotting it.
So another real good tip here, I think, is to separate your cutting board for art purposes to eating purposes. You don't really want to be mixing those two together. Yeah, like you don't want that ink on your cutting board that you'd be cutting your veggies that you eat, so keep that in mind.
Even though it's supposedly non-toxic,
No.
that does not mean you want to be eating it.
Yeah.
Or like using it, the same stuff for eating as art making. As fun as it sounds. I know it.
Oh, okay. So Christine has a really good point here. What about multiple prints with just one roll for a fade? So she's talking about ghost print.
Multiple prints.
So like without re-inking, get that ghost prints,
I mean, I would say like you can print the same thing multiple times, but each time you print it, it's going to be lighter unless you roll ink onto it. I think just getting the hang of how you inked the vegetable like the first time and just reapplying the ink in the exact same way. So if I did blue in this half and black on the other, just doing it that same way each time. And there will be some natural variation to that. So this is a type of printmaking also called monoprinting, where we're using a matrix, in this case, like a piece of okra, but the end result might vary depending on how we go about printing it.
Did you want to show a little ghost print, or is that not going to work out with what you have in mind?
Not with this design.
Okay, Kristen, we'll show you later.
Check it out on the newsprint. Newsprint is perfect for ghost printing.
Yeah.
So here's just a few more stamps, and I'm just going to stamp it till it runs out of ink, and you can kind of see. Because sometimes you can just keep printing it over and over. I mean, this could be a cool print idea or concept in its own right, is just printing over and over and over again until like the ink is gone. And that kind of creates its own beautiful, like ephemeral.
Gradation.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's great. So I say do it. That's a great idea. Me, I want the richness. I want this to be a nice, rich.
He had his own idea.
I have an idea. I'm going to stick with it.
When you're doing overlay, yeah, that's another great design idea right there. You could totally print over one print one print over the other one, especially with the ghost. I think it is quite beautiful. I love doing that.
Yep. I think that big example piece behind us, there's a ton of overlay happening there.
I'll just show you.
Yeah. Quick. You can take it off.
I know. I just tend to be really shaky. I don't know if you guys noticed.
Sure. And I'm just trying to whip out this
Yeah.
okra print, because I want to also complete this pattern. I feel like it's kind of important. That's the hard thing about this is like, I'm the kind of person who like, I'll do one stamp and then I'll kind of want to stop for a bit. And what I'm liking most about this print so far is just seeing all the different seed shapes from the okra that are kind of popping in here. So that's like, to me, the visual interest within the repetition. So I'm just going to do 2 more rows really quick. And for me, you don't even have to cut away. I just think it's an interesting concept to have it just change slightly over the course. Because, you know, for me, conceptually, this is one piece of okra. I don't know. Maybe there's something funny there or not, depending on what you think about okra and vegetables. Oh, there's a little spot of ink on there. See, and that was from an okra seed. They're all popping out as I roll the ink. So that's the kind of stuff that can happen is, you know, all these okra seeds are all popping out. And it's okay. I think I can trim the bottom and it won't even be noticeable. So Kiyomi,
Yes,
why don't you cut the potato in half?
sure. Okay, so I'm gonna,
While I'm finishing up this print,
okay.
you can start the next one.
So with potato print, it's just super, super simple. You cut it in half where it's the biggest. Now you have an option though. You could go this way or this way, right? Lengthwise or the widthwise. Which one do you want? Do you care?
Let's cut it, yeah, that way.
Okay.
It's more of a handle, I think, if you do it that way.
Good point. Okay. So here is the shape we have. Of course, you could just stamp it like this and you get a whole kind of a odd circle there, or you can carve it, design into this. I think that's the fun part.
Yeah, and it's a little on the moist side right now. So the potato needs some blotting and maybe like a minute or 2 to dry.
Yes. Here we go. So I have not actually thought about the design just yet. We could do anything.
Anything you want.
Yeah.
You gotta think on your feet, Kiyomi.
Think on your feet.
So yeah, we're gonna make a print where it's 2 halves of the same potato. I'm gonna carve one half, Kiyomi is gonna carve the other half, and we're gonna print it together on the paper.
Carve off.
So won't that be fun? Kiyomi is kind of competitive. So
I am. I have competitive nature in me. But at the same time, because I didn't put any thoughts in this, like I should have. How about this? I should do PLP, like Peace Lily.
that's a great idea.
Yeah. This is a gouge right here, if you could see this. Yeah, that wasn't a good. And this one, you can kind of like switch the blade to a lot of different shapes. This one is the finest one, the thin kind of like, it's called V-gouge. You can just start taking this and then carving in some design into this. But definitely, this is a knife, right? It's got a little blade. This is the blade. If you cut towards yourself and then slip, you could definitely cut your fingers, hands, whatever, you know. So if you're working with kids, I would say just really be careful or not let them use the knives. I think that's another thing. You could, the other thing you can do is to like take some sort of sharp edge and you can kind of like dig in and scratch into the surface. That works as well. It's just not going to be as clean of a cut. So clean of a mark, right? So just kind of like keep that in mind. But if you're working with kids, I think that's something really to take in consideration is the safety. But if you're not working with kids, it's going to be fun. I'm going to see if I can actually do a little bit of a preliminary design with this one. Not really. So I'm just going to go with my own drawing skill. The other way, which this one is definitely simple, right? You just carve in and that's it. The other thing you can do is to use a knife. A knife is really fun. I think I should get a little bit closer. Yeah. Knife is really fun, but it is like a two-step process. I'm trying to make a trench by cutting in like this. Okay. So I'm going to tilt my blade and I'm going to make one side of a line. Yeah. And then you can tilt the other way, come back in, and I'll show you what I mean. And you should be able to kind of pop this potato off. And what you get is this kind of like a deep trench right here. Yeah. So play around and then see what kind of mark you can make with knife or the gouge. It's really fun. Michael's got Swiss Army knife. Any knife would work. You know, I just wouldn't use a big knife that you would use in the kitchen. You know, those big one, just because it probably wouldn't be good to be carving it like this. But I recommend just picking up your potato, get close, and keep your back straight so you're not really hunching over. When you're working kind of small, it's really easy to like get yourself really sore that way. So I like to keep my back straight with this one. Okay.
I think it's good to stretch before every printmaking session.
That's right. It's physical. Okay. And yeah, there's really not much rule to this. Just start cutting it and see where it goes, you know.
I heard there were no rules.
There are no rules whatsoever.
I think I'm going to use the baby knife on the Swiss Army blade.
I don't know if you guys can see.
So let's see. I like to do abstract stuff with the potato stamps.
All right.
Or funny faces.
Funny faces is always fun. And periodically, just make sure you kind of like dab those moisture out so you know what's going on. Okay.
This is making me hungry.
Is it though? Raw potato?
Yeah.
It doesn't make me hungry.
It's making me really hungry.
Okay. Okay then. I think I want.
It's making me want some hash browns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Kind of want this like.
I really like cooking hash browns. I think that's one of my favorite things to make.
Yes. And we've been doing that a lot at the backyard. We've been doing a grill off. That's been a fun thing for the pandemic.
So just be careful. Don't send yourself to the emergency room with this one.
Exactly.
Apples work great too.
Oh, I bet.
They're maybe a little more moist.
Yeah. No, potato is quite moist actually.
Yeah, it's a lot wetter than people give it credit for.
Oh no, I'm slipping.
Uh-oh.
I'm slipping.
And yeah, I mean, the cool thing with if you're doing something abstract is there's even more possibilities with how you can print it.
Yeah,
So,
true.
you know, you can kind of vary it quite a bit. I'm going to try to do this one like little cool cut in right here. That's a little different from, well, you know what? Maybe I should stop there. It's so hard. It's so hard to know when to stop or what to, I'll cut a little into it.
I have a lot more to go. Hold on.
So I think I'm done with mine. That's the nice thing about doing an abstract design or print is it's like, it can be something very simple that works towards something, you know, more bigger or elegant or whatever. So this looks good to me. I think just kind of playing around with how this is rotated while printing it, that could be like a cool design in its own right. So
I feel like with using a gouge, maybe picking it up close to my face isn't the best way to go. I'm gonna try the other way.
I'm just gonna clean off my blade really quick here. It's got a bunch of gunk on it from some other projects. Not just the potato gunk. Got a little simple green. I think it needs more serious cleaning than that. And just watching the video myself is making me nervous, so I'm gonna stop.
Would you like the X-Acto?
No, it's okay. Just
Okay.
cleaning a blade on the
Okay.
camera.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, so I'm just gonna blot this out a little more and then we can start printing it.
Yeah.
It's looking good, Kiyomi.
Oh, we'll see.
So here's that okra, which I like how that turned out. Notice the finger placement where I can move my finger. That's smudges. Look at how good this. So yeah, I like the way that turned out. I think that's pretty neat. And in the end, I'll probably just crop it down here and cut off this little bit at the bottom. Or it might be possible to remove it with like a eraser, like a white vinyl eraser. Sometimes you can kind of clean it up a little bit. Next sheet of paper. So I'm a little ahead of Kiyomi here.
Yeah,
so
that's okay. Keep
I'm
going.
just gonna try printing this one, and we'll see how it does. I have some cool. I want to do a little alternating pattern. There's all these okra seeds in my ink.
Right, in the ink slab, you don't really want foreign materials in there because it prevents the ink to be nice and even.
Yeah, so it's like, I'll get like a little bit of texture in here. I honestly don't think it's gonna matter for the potato print, but that it might be worth picking out the okra, which I have like this little chopstick. So I can kind of like, if I cared, I could just use a little poking stick like this. This is a little chopstick that I carved down to kind of get at stuff. So I could pick it out if I wanted. And if I was smart and I cared more, then I absolutely would. We're just gonna, and so it looks like I need more ink on my black slab. I'm just taking a little bit of ink from this puddle of ink right here and just rolling.
I think I'm kind of done. We'll see.
I think it's about time. So
yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to do a quick little print here. And what I love about the potato stamps is I don't need to mess with the newsprint business. I can just get to the printing.
I missed one thing.
Just applying a good amount of pressure. And I like it. I think that looks nice.
Yeah, I don't recommend those tiny gouge tip for
really fine detail might not be the best. I mean,
Yeah.
you can actually get pretty good detail on this, but it is a little better to have it, not so fine.
All right, so, oh my, look at this. That's fun.
Yep.
Nice.
So I'm going to do a little alternating kind of thing going on.
Yeah, we should have a print with both of our stamps on. I mean, if mine looks good, I don't know
I
yet.
think it will. And we will do a print with both on there.
I'm gonna make this one a little more wider.
So I'm just kind of playing around with the orientation. This is another one where it's like, oh, I should have paid a little closer attention. Maybe I'll crop this down a little bit more on that side.
Oh, you can do that.
So
Later.
it's good to pay attention to like how you're doing it, but
Well, if you want to trim your paper down, like after you are done with your printing and it's like, oh, it just doesn't look good on this side, you can always trim it down, but make sure you wait till the ink is dry. I think that's the key to trimming it later.
I'm gonna do one more and right at the bottom. And I think a lot of times with this work, you need to kind of get a sense of just how it all like looks and fits together. So it's a lot of playing around with it. Like a lot of times you don't always know like what a good result will be until you actually try printing it. Which I love that aspect of it. I love experimenting with it, like not knowing if something's going to be good or not. And then, hopefully the end result is nice. This one kind of has this cool, for me, like a little flowing pattern. Looks like eggs.
I need more ink.
Easter eggs, maybe?
Yeah, it does look like eggs. Live events and video are a great tool. It feels like a cooking show. Yeah.
Yeah,
It does feel like a cooking show with like 3 cameras on. I agree.
it's making me so hungry.
Mikey,
You
can you
okay?
squeeze it out? It's been definitely old. This ink is really old. Yeah, it takes a lot of force.
That's enough for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'll just keep printing this one. I want to try a couple other ideas. It's like, what if I printed it a little closer together? You know, it's like, maybe that might look a little better. So I'm just gonna like do this really quick and just try to just play around with the spacing, because I feel like that makes a huge difference if you're trying to create patterns. And I'm just gonna alternate it like this, because I think I can fit more in. And honestly, I think I'm probably gonna like this version a little better
All right.
than my last one.
I think I need more. I think this ink is just really old. And I probably need like a little bit of plate oil. But my plate oil is also old and it just doesn't spread as easily anyway. So.
But it's okay. You can always work with what you got. And the first ink up is always the hardest.
You know what? I'm gonna use black. That's what it is. I can't use this ink. Okay. Yeah.
Now we're using the same ink, so it's competition. I'm like secretly getting mad at her.
For stealing his ink.
I was using it.
Here. You could have just told me. Okay?
I'll just harbor some resentment.
Sure.
Bottle it up.
Tell me over dinner or I don't
Exactly.
know, over your sleep.
Mumbling it in my sleep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's looking good.
Yeah, I like how this one's turning out.
Not so obvious that it's,
I think it is.
yeah.
I think
okay.
it, and this is the stage where it's like you're seeing the contrast, and I feel like maybe a couple little more bits could be carved out to give it that like peace lily flower kind of emphasis.
I could carve now, that's fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine. I think just taking out a little more in here somehow. I know that's a big ask.
I feel like maybe, okay, so I know. With Michael's advice that I appreciate, I'm ignoring it a little bit.
She doesn't listen to me.
I do.
All right, and this is the last one. Will it look good? It is better. It had better look good. Or this potato is going straight in the trash.
Oh no.
Just kidding. I think it looks good. Good
Okay,
enough for me.
let's see. Well,
So yeah, just kind of playing around with the spacing and the orientation. So you can kind of see, I just wanted to do 2 different prints with the same thing, just to show you just like how much of a difference it makes, just to kind of play around with like the spacing. Because in this case, it's kind of created a different sort of feel to it, or a different pattern to it. If anything, you know, I think I can add, I'm very tempted to add half a potato here and half a potato here to give it this sense of like extending beyond the borders. Do you think I should do it, Kiyomi? Or
What's that? Sorry.
add a potato stamp?
Yes, you should. Yes, you should. Okay.
Kiyomi says I should.
Yeah,
And
even though I stole his brayer right
I
now.
have to do what she says.
Okay, here, take it. I'm just gonna, I will proof it on a piece of newsprint.
How about this?
Oh, yeah, sure. Why not? I think I needed more ink though, because I blotted it up. Oh, never mind. Well, it's not what I thought it would be, but that's okay, you know. Another thing is like, of course, this I forgot to mention earlier. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, like that. Your image will be in reverse. So especially if you're working with text and whatnot, right? Maybe you want to put your name on it. That's a fun way to do. Make sure it's mirrored when you are carving your design. Okay.
I've made that mistake too many times.
Way too many times. Me too.
Embarrassing.
But it's very much a printmaking thing, you know, whenever you do print, unless it's silk screen or something else. I feel like it's only silk screen. I'm sure I'm forgetting about something though, but most of the printmaking technique, you do have to reverse your image.
There it is with a little extra. A little extra on it.
Let me see.
Was it,
Yeah, I like
was
that.
it a good idea or not? It's tough to say. It depends on your personal preference.
I think it was a better idea. That's my vote.
I'm not sure. I'm still not convinced. I actually do think it is better as like a pattern with that on there. It does give the sense of like extending beyond the edges of the paper. So kind of having it go up to the edge was helpful in achieving that.
There you go. Okay. So I just have some more potato juice that just came out, so I should be. Can you grab the small paper? Thank you. And I am not proofing this one again because I'm getting impatient.
It's time for the real deal.
Okay, we'll see. So make sure you're applying pressure evenly. Yep.
Looks good.
Ah!
I love it.
So here's my little piece, Lily, 4-piece Lily pressed in Microfarm, you know, yeah, I think it is what it is. I should embrace the look of it for sure. Yeah, I think having deeper edges is going to be really helpful in creating bold design. So things to kind of consider might be, I can use different gouge, you know, like I was using tiniest gouge, and it is really difficult to get the clean edge with that. But I think it is cute in its own way. Yeah. Maybe I will do a little bit of patterning because I feel like it might be cute if I did some.
Don't do that.
No?
We'll do that. Here, I have an idea.
He was all like, yeah, okay, cool.
We're gonna keep this one as is. We need to memorialize.
All right.
But why don't you print one right in the middle, dead center in the center?
All right, I'll try it. I can't promise, but I will try. Oh, something in the chat.
Eat something.
It's
That's in regards to being hungry.
something that I was seeing as a problem really was just kind of like that. I like the smoother line, and potato print doesn't quite allow that. It usually has that sort of like a jagged, choppier kind of a line. And I, you know, that's something to just embrace instead of trying to control and go against the medium. Because I think the choppiness, the ruggedness isn't bad, you know, it's just the look of it. And I think I was kind of like resisting it for a minute, but that's okay. Does that kind of, and the ink thing, the trouble I was having, oh, okay, maybe it was in regards to the too little ink thing. I could see that the blue for me was a little too dry and it just wasn't getting enough on the surface of the potato. So with, maybe I'll try to, like, maybe that's a good thing. Okay, hold on, I'll try. This ink, see, it's just not really grinding on anymore.
Yeah, so sometimes it's just not going to work out so well with certain inks. One technique you can try is just try rubbing, like going very slow. The slower you go, the more ink is deposited onto the material.
What it is for me with this one though is that because it's so old, it really became stiff. And it's good for certain surfaces, but potato surface is quite different from like lino cut or rubber stamp and other things. And it just doesn't receive the ink as easily, especially because it's a little bit moist. So in the remedy for too old ink that's really stiff is maybe the plate oil. This one, Charbonnel Aqua Wash, has its own line of plate oil that you can use. But again, I was saying like my plate oil is so old too. So it just doesn't quite work too well for me at the moment. But if you have a new one, you can kind of loosen up the ink. It's kind of like, think of watercolor. You're working with watercolor or acrylic paint. You can add a little bit of water and make it slightly looser. You don't want to add too much or else your color is not going to be as saturated, right? So flake oil is kind of like that. Yeah, hopefully that kind of gave you a little bit of an idea. Let me see, there's more things in the chat. I couldn't read it from up there. Wait. The lines create motion, and so it continues off the page. Yes. Oh, yeah. It was about that pattern. I agree. I like it. My vote is I like it. Okay. He didn't like it. Or he's deciding.
I'm not sure.
All right. The blue ink wasn't good. Yes, for sure. When this ink is dry-ish, can you add a drop of water to help? Yeah. I don't really like doing that because this is water soluble, meaning it's going to kind of ooze out and like kind of bleed out. It's not going to be a crisp image if you did that. Okay. Oh, I like that sheen of blue that you're getting in there.
That's right.
Well, you know how to work this thing. I do appreciate that.
Like I
that.
said, it's like if you're having inking issues, one approach is just to roll super slowly with the ink.
Yeah.
It's kind of getting on there. It's not.
You're right. It is kind of getting on there. I'm impressed. I couldn't get that on.
Yeah.
It's
fighting against, and going fast is actually pulling ink off of it.
I think that's why it was not going on.
So by going really slow, we're kind of seeing it ink up. It's not going to look great, but it'll look good enough for what I'm doing.
Yes.
And we'll just add a few more, like, why not, right?
It's like a lot of Easter egg.
Yeah.
It's looking good. Looking good. I'm impressed. But yes, you see what I mean by kind of like a jagged edge there that I was trying to get the curve. I feel like Michael did a much better job there with that kind of bold, cleaner, smoother line there. Okay. Yes. So we have 30 minutes left. Anything that in particular that you wanted to make sure that we get done?
I can show using screen printing ink, and we can use these stamps to print on some t-shirts.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, cool. I'm gonna grab, what I'm gonna do is to find some Plexi then.
I don't think that's necessary.
You sure?
Yep.
What about ink seeping through though?
Sure, if you want.
Okay.
I don't think that's necessary.
All right.
So anyway, I'm just gonna try to go right to the edge with this like pattern, and I'm trying to I'll try to make it bleed off the edge, and I'm kind of just using sort of the ghost, kind of fill in this space.
One thing I forgot to mention with potato, when you're cutting it in, you want to make sure your cut is nice and straight because you want that flat surface. You don't want your potato surface to be bumpy, as smooth cut as possible, or else inking it is going to be really difficult.
I'm just gonna let's try an overlay on this. I feel like this one might be kind of interesting.
Please.
Add some texture to it. We'll do a couple of this stamp, and then we'll do a few of these ones. And oops, I should have been paying closer attention to the direction of these.
Right. Because it really was kind of creating this continuity here.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then let's also just, can you grab a very small piece?
Yeah.
So here's this one. This is kind of a fun little.
Sorry, there's a pencil mark on here, but
don't worry
we can
about it.
just use that. Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
So that one has like a little bit of layering to it.
That was fun though.
I like it.
Yeah.
And here's a fun idea, a really fun idea. So this potato, right? It's like two pieces of the same thing. Let's print them on top of each other and see what it looks like.
I like.
Actually, you know what? Maybe I should use the blue ink for this one.
Okay.
So the one that goes on top, I want to use the black ink, and I'm going to use the blue ink for the one that goes on the bottom. That looks good to me.
Yes. Yeah, I do like that blue. You're really working it. I'm impressed. I don't know. That I don't know.
So you could do multi-layer prints and use different colors. And
Oh, that is fun.
I like it.
Okay. So can you guys see what happened? It's that it's registered perfectly on top of each other. Michael, that was a skill.
so there's a fun little print. You could do cool little 2-layer images and just print them on top of each other. And I love the idea of just them coming from the same potato. You know.
I think the key though is when you're doing a 2-layer print is that one layer, the bottom one should really be light and the other should be really dark. So you have that contrast and it's not competing with
Let's
each
do
other.
one more and I'm gonna do exactly what you said.
Let it compete with each other.
Not compete.
Okay, good.
So I'm just gonna use the ghost. I'm not even inking this up. But I'll just use like the ghost of that last one. This paper I'm printing on is also more absorbent, so that might
All right.
make some kind of difference.
Ooh, I like it though.
Looks good. And we'll just slather this one up with black ink by comparison. Oops. Sorry, Kiyomi.
Nah,
And we'll try our best
that's the tricky part.
to register it.
I think you nailed it.
I think it's good. I hope it's good. I like it.
Nice. I'm gonna pick this up and then show you guys. Yes. So can you see that contrast is quite good on this one? I mean, I feel like the other one was pretty good too, but you can see what to focus on immediately just by looking at this is the black, and the blue is a little bit more supplemental.
I'm gonna try it one more time.
I love the okra, Michael.
Yeah, me too.
Very nice. Okay.
Me too. So I'm just gonna do this once more. And the other thing that I feel like needs to be done better is I need to angle it a certain way. Because that peace lily flower, it should probably be more like this.
Okay.
You'll see.
Okay. Or if you also did the opposite with which potato half was darker. I agree. I think that's another fun thing to do. But he's already going for it. But you're right. The other way is totally fine. The peace lily can be the supportive one, and the blue can be the wave can be more of a primary role there too. Oh, it's interesting.
Looks nice to me.
Yeah.
Very subtle.
Yes. So, you ready?
What are we
Or-
doing next? Oh, the print on fabric.
Yeah. And you said not to worry about flexi. We
Yeah,
can do a newsprint inside instead.
sure. I don't even think it makes a difference, honestly. I'm not gonna be pushing that hard into it.
That's what he says, but I'm paranoid. So what I'm talking about is that when you're printing on a shirt, the ink can seep through the fabric and it can get the other side dirty. So I like having something in between. But again, let me just go wash my hands real quick.
So I'm cleaning off this potato. It's got some of this ink on it. We're gonna switch to a different kind of ink, and I don't want to get the colors of the other ink onto this one. So I'm just cleaning it up as best I can. Because I want to reuse these ones. I don't want to have to carve whole new stamps to show you. Although we could, but for the sake of time.
Okay. T-shirt. All right.
Almost got it clean. So another thing is, if you don't like your carving, you can just take your knife and just cut it a little further along
Just make sure it's nice and flat.
and get, more print carving material area out of it.
Okay, got it.
It's okay. Okay, start with black shirt.
Oh, you wanted the black. All right.
Or that green shirt. I'm gonna start with white ink.
Okay, which one do you want?
Let's do that green one first.
Okay. Sounds good.
I want to do the peace lily flower on the pocket for that one.
I like that. Oh, so you're doing Pocket, all right.
It's a pocket tee.
It is a pocket tee.
Okay, so
So then maybe I'll use a different use.
I'm going to use this white fabric screen printing ink. And I'm going to use one of these fun, exciting brushes.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to kind of try to dip it in here and paint it on. I'm going to get just a tad bit of water. I feel like that will help. And I'm going to put one of my gloves back on.
Right. So screen printing ink, if you get this on your clothes, it is not going to come out completely just because, you know, it's there to stay.
I've got a little bit of water here. I'm just gonna like moisten the brush. It doesn't even need to be wet, but I think a little bit of water will help. This screen printing ink, it's kind of like it's kind of acrylic paint basically, except it dries more slowly. So that's maybe one way to think about it.
And the consistency is a little bit different for sure.
And what I really want is this Peace Lily stamp graphic to go right here on this pocket. And I'm hoping that this is in my size so I can wear it. I don't think it is.
I'll wear it then.
Wouldn't it be cool? And you know what? I see a little bit of ink right here in the lid top. I think I can just use that. And it's a little stiff. So this is like the part where like if you're using a brush, you know, finesse is kind of important because you can kind of see the ink glob down there. And I don't want it getting in those cracks. I think that's going to reduce the quality. Sometimes it's okay, but I'm just going to carefully just try to brush it on the top. I actually really enjoy seeing the brush marks, and I feel like you can kind of play around with the direction, but don't get too much ink on there. So that looks like a good amount for me. And let's just see what we can do.
Oh, it's a perfect size.
It is. It really is. Maybe I can start a pocket tee side hustle just with my potato stamp printing. And look at that.
So maybe it's better to pick it up.
So it's a little hard to see, but you know, there's the pocket with a little cool little design. You could carve your like initials and stamp them on there. Or, I don't know.
You can see.
There's all kinds of fun ideas for what you could do, but or I'll hold it up like this. And you can see that if I was wearing it, oh, it's slightly, oh, you know, I could wear this. This is awesome. I'm so happy and thankful.
Yes.
So yeah, this is what it's like. Now we've got this cool little Peace Lily thing graphic. You just need some Peace Lily Preston Microfarm text right here, maybe.
Yeah.
But I like it. I'm very happy.
All right.
Let's do another one. The black one.
So with screen printing ink, you do want to heat set it still. So get your hair dryer. And once it air dries, you can really get it close and make sure that,
A lot of times I speed up the air drying by just using the hair dryer and just kind of drying it. Basically, once you kind of start to feel it harden, that's when you've reached the right point.
You want black shirt?
Yes, please.
It's large, this one.
That's good. That's another shirt for me, size large. I'm very happy.
Not a pocket tee though.
Oh man.
So are you sure you don't want to protect that?
This is good.
Okay, then.
I'm sure.
So we'll see.
She has her doubts.
I do.
I think it'll be all right. So now we've inked it up. And I'm just going to go kind of hog wild on it and just do as many stamps as I can to try to fill in this space.
I like that.
I really like going crazy with these. So I'll start, I'm just going to try to fill in just a big like area in the chest, like kind of this area. I just want it to be a bunch of potatoes seemingly falling from the sky or whatever. I don't know. I don't really have like a very, I'm going to freestyle it is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. And we just have 15 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Anything you guys want to ask? I guess I could talk a little bit about Peace Lily Press.
Sure.
We started it in 2014, and it started as Michael's fish keeping, waste control.
All the poo water from the fish.
That's right. Here, yes. So yeah, Michael was keeping a lot of fish. I met him in grad school. I was doing printmaking, and his studio was right next to mine. And I noticed that there were so many fish tanks in his studio. And I did not understand. I was like, what does fish tanks have to do with printmaking?
I think that's what
Oh, no.
that's what my committee wanted to know too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spilled it all over myself. Fortunately, I'm wearing all white clothes. I'm just gonna.
That's all right. That's all right.
It's smart to wear what color you're trying to print that day. That's
Or smart to wear an apron, I would say.
No.
But yeah, so yeah, I started getting to know Michael after a while, and yeah, he started kind of like trying to kind of come up with a way to deal with the fish waste. And we decided, okay, it's a great fertilizer. So we started gardening. We started dumping it in this little triangle garden we had. And I mean, like he had, I guess, because I'm all like calling it we when it wasn't mine. But what was it? You know, it was a barren land, I thought, when I first saw it, because there was nothing growing in it, and there was batteries and like beer caps and all kinds of trash buried in there. It did not look like a garden, but he really transformed it into this little organic garden. And it was a tiny thing too, you know. He packed it to the max. And yeah, I as a printmaker, I guess, you know, myself, I started getting really interested in that sort of practice where it merges art and life together. And yeah, here, let me help you out. Ooh. So yeah, we started doing that sort of micro farming, plus making some sort of like non-toxic form of printing together. And we were collaborating with a lot of artists. We would invite some of our friends who aren't artists to make prints with us with the materials we had on site. And yeah, it really became like a little concept, a little project.
I feel like it almost became like just a code name for all of the just different stuff that we would do.
Yeah.
All the different
Just call it
operations.
PLP, you know?
Because it's just so hard to like, you know, compartmentalize all these different like ways of working or approaches to all the different interests that we have. And there's so many. I think Kiyomi and I are both like people who just like go crazy with all these different you know, ideas or like ways of working.
Yeah, it's hard to pin down what we do. You know?
Yeah.
I think that was another thing, is like PLP was kind of
Amorphous.
yes.
And it continues to be. I feel like our focus is always like subtly shifting depending on, you know, what we're really into at that time. So that was another reason for it, is just like a mechanism for defining all the different things that we do, or
Right.
ways that we think that we work.
There you go. So yeah, it's like we were thinking of composting as an art form. We were thinking about what is it? What is experimental kitchen? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely, like just even food, right? Like that was for us an art form, just living as an art form. My favorite artist, one of my favorite artists is Alan Capral, and he has this thing in his book. He says, even brushing teeth, right, if done in mindful way, is an art form.
It really is.
It's like a performance art without an audience. You are the audience of your own performance art, and I think it just really spoke to me that we don't have to create this boundary between different art forms. Yeah.
Yeah, so really, you know, everything is so much more connected than we give it credit for. And, you know, I hear so many people talk like, I'm not an artist, I'm not, you know, whatever. And that's not true, because it's like,
I think everybody is an artist.
everybody does very artistic things in their own life, whether or not they acknowledge it as such.
Maybe your driving is an art form.
It could be.
The way you take out trash, you know, the way you polish your sink. I don't know. It's like those little things that we do that we never give credit for. Maybe that's an art form. Yes, so PLP is basically there to kind of just give it a name and have fun with it. I think that's kind of the whole thing, is that it's fun. It's fun
It is
to
fun.
call it something. Okay,
So we just need a few more of these stamps.
yes,
What do you guys think about this design? Any thoughts?
I'm liking it. You're both such a thank you. All projects, thank you, Jess. I agree. All projects as a life and art together.
And yeah, I think everybody should do some kind of art. And like we're saying, it's like art can be whatever you define it to be. But I think it's really healthy and important for everybody to be making art in some way or another. Uh-oh. It's gonna be-
Uh-oh.
I was printing it on the edge of the table.
All right, there is an edge right here.
It's okay.
I was gonna say, like, even, like weeds that we picked out this morning, we pulled a lot of weeds thinking we're gonna make prints out of it. We didn't get to this time, but
I'm gonna print them after this.
yeah. But right, like, I think pulling weeds does kind of seem like, okay, so the weeds can be composted.
Yeah, but I heard it was art to pull weeds. And it really is, because there's an artistic function to it, right? Because you're trying to like maybe make your garden more aesthetically pleasing, or maybe like you really like pulling the weeds and composting them, and you value them as like a way of regenerating your soil. That's what I think about them.
Or you can make a literal art out of it,
Or you
like,
can make some art out of it.
yeah, there's value in everything if you let it let it have a value to it.
Like, yeah, and we eat a lot of weeds out of our garden
That's
too.
true. That's
So
true.
like, I think that's an art too, where
Yeah,
it becomes a food, and I think food is art.
eating is art.
Eating is art.
Pooping is art. You're digesting it. That's art.
Yeah.
So yes, there you go.
We'll just do a couple more of these babies.
It's their 4th anniversary in 6 days. That's right. It's coming
so
up.
right. It's
Yeah.
coming up.
Yeah.
What a great 4 years it's been.
Thank you. Thank you. I just the same way to you. Returning it the same way. Likewise. Okay.
I wonder if I should do some ghost prints.
Yes, totally.
So now I'm gonna do some ghost prints, and hopefully this is a good idea. Hopefully it's not a bad idea.
We'll see.
Just try to doing like a few one.
I think it's great. Yeah.
I thought that was gonna be on the edge. And one thing that if you make a mistake, like I almost made a couple mistakes here because there's like a crease in the table. If you do make mistakes, sometimes you can go in with like a paintbrush and just like paint it. You know what I mean? Like take the ink and just go and like
Fix the mistake.
fix it a little. People don't notice the small stuff usually, unless that's the joy of making like a design like this where it's all like
Oh, sorry, I touched it. Okay.
you ruined it.
I did.
Where it's all like a little looser, so you can
Yeah.
kind of play with it a little bit more.
Nice.
Now it's just the really light stuff, and I'm just gonna do what I can to,
Nice.
maybe one more. Okay, I think that's good, and let's
Alright.
see how it looks on me, because
That's right. You're the one who's gonna be wearing
I'm
it.
trying to expand my wardrobe with this one. What do you think?
Yes. I guess here. Love it. Thank you so much, John.
There's fashion line.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can actually I can try it
Active.
on, yeah.
So he will be your
Model.
yeah, I was gonna say mannequin, but oh,
I will-
maybe that was too hasty though, because I hope not.
Well,
Oh, it's good. Yeah, like a
messed it
little
up a
ink
little
got
bit.
a little.
So that's, maybe that shouldn't be done in the future, but
Let it dry before you try it on. I think that's a good good lesson to learn from.
That's
That looks great.
so here it is. Done
Yeah.
deal. I like it. I'll probably wear it.
Good.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your generosity. We learned so much from you today. It was awesome to spend time together because you guys are just charming in your chat. So I just want to let folks know we have 5 minutes left, and you're welcome to stay on if you want to finish up your project or do anything else. But we'll be signing off soon in terms of recording the workshop. So thank you again for so generously donating and for spending the day with us and being a part of Slow and Sustain.
Yes, thank you so much. And yes, I do want to appreciate Slow and Sustain team, Heidi and Jess. Thank you so much for having us host a workshop today, and also to that you guys featured us in your article, the magazine, the latest issue.
It was so fun to have like workshops. You're the first of a series, so you're kicking us off for this season and this new issue. And so it was really nice to spend Saturday with you guys. And I know that we said on our flyer that we would end at 1, but I'm happy to stay on and just keep this video going if you'd like.
Sure.
And we're going to post this on YouTube, on IGTV later. Kiyomi, you and Michael can review the video recording to see, how you'd like to present it afterwards, and we can share with everybody. Really, anybody who wants to learn printmaking from art educators like yourself can go online and find things they can do from home, from their backyard garden. That's such an amazing skill share.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm excited about sharing this content later with everybody. Yeah, thank you so much. And I think there's something in the comment right here. I couldn't donate through Eventbrite. How can I send in the donation? That's what someone's asking. And yeah, I wonder if anybody else
has a Venmo.
Yeah, Venmo. Okay.
Sustain.
Great.
And
thank you so much.
Just need to let me know who to make the check payable to for your portion of the donation to CSULB.
Yeah.
So we'll sort that out on the back end.
We'll definitely do that. Yeah. I was going to say for everybody who's here, thank you so much for your generous donation. The suggested donation is $15, but of course you can just give what you can. It's a pandemic time, like not everybody is in the fortunate situation where you can freely donate everything, right? It's totally fine if you want to just give what you can. But yes, the place we're donating it to is called CSULB Food Pantry. It's actually called ASI Food Pantry, but it's a little technical. That's the place that's supporting students who's hungry, who cannot afford food. And they've been doing that for how long now?
It's been several years that they've been open, and we had a garden plot on the CSULB campus back when they had community gardens there.
Yeah.
And we would, myself and other gardeners there, we would donate like produce to the food pantry, and all the students would like scoop it up, like, within hours of it being dropped off, which was really cool. And we would do other donations too, just like whatever we could.
It was just a joy to see them enjoy the food that's not like a top ramen, And yeah, I think homelessness in college situation was becoming a pretty big issue too. I think you guys are all aware of how living expense has been very much going up, while our wages are.
Not to mention tuition going up too.
Exactly.
So for students, it's like tuition's going up. The cost of rent just is really skyrocketing. And it's like, I remember, when I was like a broke student, and it's like got to be way harder today than it was when I was even a student, not even that long ago.
That's right. So
yeah.
supporting students for us is a pretty big thing that we believe in. I teach at Cal State Long Beach as well as Glendale Community College. I've been teaching at different spots, and Michael works at Cal State Long Beach School of Art Advising Center. So yeah, we deal with students all the time, and it's really kind of something that we really do want to keep pursuing. So if anybody feels inclined to donate through this opportunity, I really would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
That would be very cool of you.
Very much so. Okay, I think that covers everything.
That's it.
right?
And yeah, we're gonna do like one more print or just a series of prints. Like what I have that I'm really desperate to print with, like a lot of the stuff in this bucket, for instance, we'll probably just eat it because like most of it's food, like with a few exceptions.
Right.
But these are just a bunch of weeds, and I'm like pretty desperate to just print them. I'm super curious.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not that curious, but I think it'll be fun. And I'm just gonna just roll a bunch of ink on them. And I have just a really simple idea for this print. I'm just gonna ink up a whole bunch of them, just this whole pile of weeds. It's really dirty, it's really messy. I'm glad we're gonna clean up after it because it's gonna be messy for the rollers and the ink too. I'm just gonna put them all in here and just shut it and just print it that way.
That's a good, nice hurrah, last hurrah for this.
I think it's great to like have like a last, like really messy, inky, disgusting kind of print, and we're gonna try to use up as much of this ink as we can on it. And I'm just gonna go crazy with it.
Yeah, if you have to go, please do. Don't worry about feeling obligated to stay on.
But I just want to spend a few minutes just getting really
let's
messy
all
with
turn
it.
on videos for a group shot. I love that.
Yes,
I love that so
please,
much.
yes, please.
Yes.
So we see everybody here. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's Emma. One sec. I have you too. Hi, Emma.
Yay.
I like that. Workshop 2. Wait, so I think that one is off for some reason.
I don't know why.
Oh, I think I know. It's a low battery thing, but now it's on. Not that it's necessary. We're already on 2 cameras. Never mind. Okay.
Here we go.
Thank
That's
you.
Another one.
Good
And
job.
here we
Okay.
are. Wonderful.
I like that you're wearing that t-shirt. I think it's perfect. Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Yes. It's something.
Do you want me to keep the video running?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just do
For a
that.
couple
We
more
can keep
minutes.
the recording on, and I can just spotlight your 3 cameras and just keep those running.
Sure.
Okay, wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for joining today. Oh, yes. So we'll see what the final print looks like. Do you need help inking up?
I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right. I'll just let him do his thing.
It's just gonna be a messy, disgusting print.
Right.
And that's the way I like it.
Mhm.
I'll try one on a t-shirt too, where I slather some ink on there.
All right.
This is getting. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh my
This is Hawkeye.
People confuse this one for dandelion, but it's not actually dandelion. This is kind of like, it's almost like a wild lettuce.
This is the same plant, Hawkeye. Yes. And we actually see our birds, the birds that come to our garden, just kind of munching on the seeds. They are our birds. It's really fun to see that.
But yeah, Hawkeye, it's a very common weed.
You
And
can eat it when it's young.
yeah, it is edible. You can eat the flowers too.
Other things that he's putting on there.
There's a lot of Hawkeye.
There's a lot of
I think
Hawkeye.
I think
Okay.
there's one little bit of grass.
Yeah, there is, this one's Daga.
Yeah, I don't think that one's gonna end up.
Yeah, it's a little sad looking right now. Maybe this one could. But Daga, we have a lot of, it's not really weeds, but we just have so much off. So we have to kind of pull some off. But it's kind of like an herb for us now. Like you can make tea out of it. And hummingbirds love it because of the shape of the flower. It's
Yeah,
quite
I
nice.
think we grow it for the hummingbirds. They love it. They hang out all the time. I saw a bunch of hummingbirds drinking from our Daga plants during this workshop. So
Oh, nice. And they're very resilient. I love it. And I do recommend it in the garden. It's quite nice. You don't need to really take care of it. They take care of themselves. And of course, we all know what grass looks like. We got a lot of them.
all
Oh, I
right.
think that's it. Okay.
So we'll do another crazy, messy, experimental one with different kind of ink after this.
All right.
But let's see, will it work? I mean, this is the joy of printmaking, where it can be such a simple thing. Like, there's not much to it. Just applying some pressure. A lot of printmaking is very complicated.
Yes, there's some with like a lot of steps for sure.
But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
I like the simple stuff.
Thank you, Christine, for
Hanging
lingering
out.
on. Still staying on. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
What's it gonna be like? Let's just scoop it all off at once.
Yes. Oh, interesting.
Not as cool as I wanted it.
I think
to be.
it's fun if you want to like add like maybe clearer image here and there.
Yeah, this is like one of those things where maybe this is better to draw on top of.
Yeah.
Or
or
we
if
can
you
always
want to
take
do
just
one.
some individual leaves and kind of stamp them on there too. I'm not too worried about it. I'll probably just draw on this. This is my sketchbook, so it's like, and I just started it as a sketchbook. So eventually I'll get to this page and I'll probably just keep drawing with it.
Okay.
So anyway, not as good as I hoped, but still kind of interesting.
And that's the last hurrah. All right.
I'll give you one more.
One more. Never mind. One more.
And a t-shirt.
All right. Yeah.
I want to try a Daga, or not a Daga, one of those
Hawkeye t-shirt. Okay. That sounds good.
And this could be a stupid idea, a stupid waste of a t-shirt, but you know, I like stupid.
If it
wastes of
doesn't work
stuff.
out, I can always shred it up into yarn.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm just gonna try to take a little bit of ink. I'm gonna try to paint it onto this Hawkeye here,
Nice.
and then we're just gonna try to print it on there.
Do you want like a newsprint or
Yeah,
something underneath
Piece of
it? Yeah.
newsprint.
It's too small.
Just fold it, unfold it. We'll just set it down. I'm just gonna get it nice and inky. And yeah, all I pretty much used was just the ink in this cap for the prints that I made. which is like
Nice.
almost nothing. I'm just gonna paint it on there.
Let's see if I can get another newsprint. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm trying to get some of the root.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Unfortunately, the white ink is getting all dirty now.
Well, yeah.
Okay, that looks good. Maybe a little more on here. Okay.
She says send a pic of finished print. All right. So that's the last.
This will be the last one,
All right.
which we could keep going, but
We shan't.
yeah.
This has to stay on as a host. Oh, that's gorgeous. I love this. I want you to do this to all my shirts. I love it. Okay.
Yeah, very simple, kind of subtle, but I like it.
How's that? Or maybe it should be more like this. Yes. Okay. There you go then.
Here's what it would look like if I was wearing it.
Here you go. Yes. Okay. So I do think this is finally a wrap. And
That's it. It's just
that
the
is
cleanup.
it. Yes.
Clean up now.
Which, that's it then.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Kiyomi and Michael. This was wonderful.